Next step is going to be putting on the ladder. Now, when I was checking this out on the bottom, turns out I already had anti-seize in these holes. They might have just used it when they were like tapping it. That's what I would imagine. What I did, I just wiped them clean. I don't really want anti-seize on these bolts on the bottom, mainly because they're going to be upside down. And if they had anti-seize on there, especially with how thin this metal is, it's like, I don't know, 1/8 inch, maybe even thinner. But it's not a lot of grab for the actual screws themselves. So I wiped it all clean, and I'm going to be using some blue thread locker on there as well, because I want to make sure that those bolts aren't going to go anywhere. What I would recommend, if the company is watching this, I'd recommend some self-tapping screws. Just some decent size ones. That way you can drill the hole, but just, you know, make it a little bit smaller to these self-tapping screws. That way when it binds in, it's going to bind very well, instead of having ones that are already pre-drilled, especially with how thin this metal is and how much less of a grab it's going to have. That's what I recommend. Yeah. You're just going to be peeling this back part off, since we already wiped off exactly where this is going to go. So again, try not to touch it, try not to get any dirt on there, because that's just going to be less of an adhesive when we press it on. So you want to line it up, drop it on the 2 bolts up top, and while you're doing this, you want to push down very slowly, line it up exactly where you want it, right there. Yeah, that is where I want it. So with it being on there, double check, make sure it's good. But yeah, you just want to do the same thing. You want to make sure that you're giving more of a downward but forward press on this ladder. That way it's going to have this mounting tape onto your rear hatch. Again, just make sure you at least hold it on there for at least 30 seconds. Ooh, I really hope I can reach that camera. Oh, come here. Prior to install, read all instructions carefully, then refer back to page 3 and make certain all parts are present prior to install. Well, according to this, we do have everything. However, according to the bracket that I need to put on, that isn't correct. Because on this bracket, it has these tabs that are welded on that goes underneath the actual rear hatch itself, which then holds it from actually pulling out towards this way, away from the vehicle. On the tabs themselves, they actually did drill and tap these holes. Now I thought they were the same size as that top bracket system, however, they are not. So guess who had to go and take that drive over to the hardware store? Yeah, they know me over there. But I was able to pick up a different size one, which is exactly what we need. It's going to be a 1/4 by 20 by 1/2 inch long socket head cap screw. It's the same kind of style as those other set screws. They're just a little thicker, which is nice. I'd rather them actually make those same set screws size as these on top as well. I think the pitch is better on these rather than being so fine. Yeah, these ain't too bad. Plus, they actually fit that other Allen wrench that we have, which is the bigger size for those other cap screws. So, kind of worked out pretty good. Yeah. Which then made even more sense, because the other thing that we got was this flat piece of metal with the mounting tape on the one side. So, which then made a lot of sense, because I could have sworn that nowhere in those directions it was saying anything about this piece. So I'm guessing what it is, when we sit it in there, it's going to be sitting up in here. This is going to go, the mounting tape is going to go against the actual hitch or latch, back hatch. back hatch. And then we're just going to be lining up with these two tabs. That way, when we do put those set screws in there, it's just going to be going against this piece rather than the actual plastic itself, which I really wish they did for the top as well, but I didn't see anything. Another tip, GOBI, if you're watching this, I would recommend doing the same thing for up top. That way it doesn't dig into your back hatch, especially with these older models that are more, they're plastic, not metal. So hopefully it doesn't crack into it because it is only that singular spot. I might go back and try to wedge something in between there just so it has more of a surface area that it's going to push against, but I'll see how well it holds up. But this there, press against, makes sense. So this is going to be the next step. Basically we're going to be lifting up the lift gate. That way we can get underneath there and get that B clamp underneath. That way we can hold the ladder down. Just like so. Just going to be going underneath the hatch. Goes back around. Set screws. Cap screws in there. Yeah. Just like how they are. You got the screw. You get the lock washer. You get the flat washer. Goes straight into the bottom of the ladder. Again, I do recommend some blue Loctite. Just since it is upside down. That way the screws don't just wiggle loose. The next thing you know, you don't have them no more. I don't have another person to help me out, so I'm just going to take my time with it. I'm not going to go too crazy. But I got to open this up, that way we can get to the other side. Luckily, my hydraulic pieces there aren't really strong, so they didn't really lift it too well. So it's actually paying off right now. But with this, I'm going to grab this, actually try lining it up underneath. Just going to be lining up these two holes underneath the bottom, and then that way it's going to hug around the other side. I think first I'm just going to get an actual measurement. If anything, I'm just going to put this underneath. I'll get those screws, maybe just set them in there just so this is getting held on there. I'll get a measurement on both sides, continue that masking tape all the way around. That way I know how to center this other piece of metal in there. That way the screws are going to be pressing up against this, and also get a better measurement on the height as well. So I did the same thing. I just came down here, held the bracket up, made sure it's lined on both sides, marked it with the pencil, and then I just put the tape over around and back around. That way it just kind of gives me a rough estimate on where exactly these tabs are going to be sitting. I noticed the hatch actually does go up a little bit more slower with the added weight, but it's nothing too crazy. So I'm just going to be taking, so if I line it up, yeah, the way that it's looking, it should just be going straight across. So basically, ooh, it's a little bright out. Yeah, so I'm just going to be going right behind these tabs. Seems like it's just going to be following right along the actual strip here, right on the bottom. It doesn't look like it's going to be sitting up any farther than that. But let's see how it goes. Doing the exact same thing. Just a rag, get some of that alcohol, and just wipe in between that area. Again, I don't want to go more or less, no more. That way it doesn't discolor the paint too much. But I just want a good adhesion with that. Alright, cool. Oh. And then take some of the tape. I'm just going to let that dry for a little bit. Meantime, just going to be taking the red tape off. adhesion, watch your hands. And just place it, double check, just in case. It's a good thing I double checked, because that's a little off. And the same thing, hold for 30 seconds. So now I'm just confused a little bit more, mainly due to we had an adhesion tape, the mounting tape right here from the ladder, you know, makes sense, press it down, no problem. But on here, it's showing more mounting tape right here that go against the actual back hatch. But however, the piece doesn't have anything on there, so it doesn't show anything there, but on here it does. Granted, it shows a little bit more of a steeper kind of bend right where that B is pointing. So I was kind of curious, because I actually did have more adhesive tape, double-sided tape, just in case, with the mounting tape. But when I was lining this up to the Jeep, like this is where it would be basically holding. So when I look behind, it's honestly too much of a gap, really. Even if I did put double-sided tape there, or mounting tape, it really wouldn't do anything. Unless I put it here on the bottom. If I put it on, even then it's like too much of an angle, really. I think maybe that's why they didn't put anything there, because maybe for these older Jeeps it's a little different because of angle. But even if I did put any, because yeah, right there you can see right through it. I don't think it's going to really do anything unless I put it right on the edge, but even then I don't think it's going to do anything. So I'm thinking I'll just put the screws on there, and I'm gonna put the setting screws underneath. But yeah, so I was looking at it a little bit more. I was thinking that maybe I could just put some mounting tape just for cushioning on here, but honestly the only spot that I was rubbing at was underneath here, right on this bottom lip, going across. That was the only spot. But even then, if I do that, there's a good chance when I do put those set screws through here, it's only going to be pushing this more down and away. So even with that, this might just push away from there. So putting more mounting tape on there, just, I think that's maybe why they did it, but I don't know. I don't see a point adding more. Yeah, I think it's going to be fine, but if it does rattle, if there is some movement, maybe then I'll put something there just to hold it. But in the meantime, I can just pop these other screws on. Again, it's just going to be the button cap screw, then the lock washer, and then the flat washer for each one. I'm just going to tighten them on for right now. Once I have them on, not all the way, but I'll just put them on a little bit, and then I'll add the blue thread locker, because I don't want any C's on these. I don't think I need it. Just a little bit. That's fine. Just a little bit more down. That'll give me enough room. Just to put thread locker right above that flat washer. That way when it screws in, it'll hit this piece of metal right here and it should lock up. But yeah, I think that's the best bet. Likewise, with how thin this piece is on top, with it being like 1/8 of an inch, the threads aren't really there. So I recommend just don't bolt it down a lot. Like, it's already got a lock washer. I know the thread locker is maybe a bit much, but don't torque it down. Just don't. With how those kind of stripped pretty easy, these are probably going to strip just as easy. So just in case, again, don't do that. What they could do, I believe they're like bung ends for the inside of this tube. They could just weld something on the inside of this tube. That way they can give more of a thicker grip on there and kind of sandwich the actual tube down with this flat piece of metal. That's what they could do. I don't know, just throwing ideas out. But yeah, plan now is I'm just going to be grabbing the blue thread locker, which I have. Oh, right there. Also, don't slam it. Like I keep doing. There we go. Apply some right on here. Same thing. Just in case, lather it up. Why not? Just in case. Cool. Take your Allen wrench and start tightening it down. I don't recommend torquing it all the way down right now, especially with placement. And just get this pretty tight. Right when the lock washer starts kind of like connecting down, flattening out, that's when I would stop. Flattening out. Move it more into position. So it's pretty sturdy. So check the other side. Just want to make sure that the lining's still up. Yes, they are. Looks like it's about, I'd say, 1/8 of an inch gap in between the tab itself and that other piece of metal with the mounting tape on. So the 1/4 inch long screws should be pretty good. And before I start any of that, I'm going to put those on right now. That way it's going to be more of an equal balance in between the pressures. Because if I torque this all the way down, then this is, I don't know, I just don't think it's going to be equal pressure. A little bit of blue Loctite. Back up. I'm sure you guys can guess how this looks, so I'm not going to bother moving the camera, honestly. Or will I? Second screw. Blue Loctite. Line it up. Hand thread it in. I want to make sure it's actually seated good. If it's not, it's only going to strip the threads. Yeah, just a little bit. Just until it actually touches. Just how the other one was. Alright. Other screws underneath. Now we can actually start sitting these in. Again, I'm worried about them stripping, so I'm going to try not to mess them up too much. Yeah, when it feels tight, it is tight. Yeah, once you feel like it's actually stopping, stop. Double check the other side. Oh yeah, that's good. Yep, same thing. Good. Alright, those set. Let me go back underneath here. Try to set these in. Oh, hi. So the last step that they have for the instructions is throwing on the hardware for these 2 bolts on top that holds the ladder down onto the seat bracket that we have. So the first thing that they want you to throw on is the neoprene washers with the rubber piece facing down, and not gonna lie, that's pretty snug. So wiggle it back and forth. On the other one, ooh, same thing, pretty snug. Wiggle back and forth, just so you can have some thread to actually get the nut on. So the next thing is going to be the lock washers. Put that on, and then you got your nut. Now I was thinking about throwing some blue thread locker on here, but I think it's going to be okay. I don't think I need it for this because this is going to be on top. I don't think it's going to wiggle loose, especially with the neoprene plus the lock washer. It's facing up. It's not really going to go anywhere. Plus the pressure is pulling back this way. It's not really pushing up. Tighten it down. You got a 1/2 inch deep socket. Now in the directions it did say don't over tighten, so we're just going to make it nice and tight, but not too tight. One thing I was worried about was if I was going to have enough room between the ladder and my roof rack once I did have it installed. Unfortunately, I can't lift it all the way up because, well, I'm in the garage, and yeah, and it's currently on jack stands because I'm still doing a axle swaps for the front and rear. Still waiting on some steering components, but I didn't buy a GOBI rack, so I was really concerned if I did have enough room. But it looks like I should be okay. But once I get it out, I'll definitely test it out. Hopefully, it should be alright though. Quick review of the GOBI rack. Things that I recommend, things that I found, things I liked, things I don't like. So, with how everything kind of went, I didn't like how I had to go to the hardware store and go pick up those things, even though I literally just said in the beginning of the video saying, hey, rule number 1, make sure you have all your stuff. Go figure, had to go over to the hardware store anyways. So at least I found what I needed. Happens. With the top, with how those set screws were, I didn't like how they were kind of more at an angle, not really flat against the actual top of the rear hatch. I also didn't like how thin the metal was and how easily they were able to get stripped. Maybe recommendation is just drill the hole again, get some self-tapping screws, something like that. But it seems to be holding pretty good. The glue, hey, improvise. The ladder itself, it's not bad. The welds look strong. They're definitely MIG welds, but nothing really, super clean or anything. But hey, I care more about this actually being on there than I care about how it looks. It did sit really well. With this being angled, it did make sense with how the angle of the top hatch or the top of the rear hatch is. So with it being angled, it worked out really well. So it does look very straight on here. The measurements were actually pretty correct as well. I did like that. Again, with the instructions, they were very well illustrated. They had good colors. It's very straightforward. Plus, at the same time, the instructions were more towards my actual year of a Jeep. I would imagine when you get like a 97 or higher product for the ladder, for the Jeep, I would imagine the illustrations would be different. I would hope so. But I really did like that. Instructions, they weren't bad. They were very straightforward. They do depict back over to the page with the figure. It was really nice, easy to follow. The fact that it did not have the set screws in here for the bottom part, as well as that one piece of metal with the mounting tape on there, didn't say anything about it. I would recommend maybe changing something up about that. That way it has it more in there, because if you're going to drill and tap the places for some set screws on the bottom of this mountain bracket on the tabs, it just makes sense to actually have instructions on that. The Bottom bolts, I was pretty surprised, actually worked out really well, because I was really worried because they weren't going in at a bit of an angle, which I was kind of worried about, because if I really tightened up, I was worried about it kind of snapping and kind of ruining that threaded area, because this piece is really thin. It's basically like an eighth of an inch or something like that, so I was pretty worried about that. But it held in really well. Maybe recommendations, I believe they're just called, don't quote me, but I believe they're called bung ends that you can actually put on the inside of this tube for here. Maybe that would give it more of a thicker kind of hold for that bolt. I would imagine that would probably work a little bit better. Maybe they didn't want to do that because it might mess up the weld. I don't know. But seems to be holding pretty well so far. Other problems I were running into. So even with this, I did have a bit of exposure for this one mounting tape right here. I did have a bit of a lip, but I'm okay with it because when you do put your foot in here, you want to have room. If this was pushed in more, you would be more on the balls of your feet rather than an actual arch on your foot. So that's not bad. Can't complain about it. Dang, I think that was about it. Yeah, screws went in fine, the set screws, I didn't have a problem with that. Just a quick run to the hardware store. I still have to verify if I can open up this hatch all the way. I just can't do it right now because my Jeep's on jack stands because I've been doing axle swaps for the front and rear, so it's not really going anywhere for a little bit. Still got to get the steering components like the tie rod and drag link in from another company that I'm still waiting on. It took a bit to get this. There was a hold time for I think 5 weeks or something like that, maybe a little bit longer, I think. But hey, it was worth the wait. It's not bad. I like the product. I like how it looks. I think it's really well done. Now, I guess this comes down to, is it worth the price? So the price was about $400. It was like $395. Is it worth the price? I don't know. Can't argue with it right now. I guess I got to look at the durability right now. I do like that it was made in the USA. So it's plus. Shipping was great because they actually did a priority shipping. They shipped over like night, one day. So pretty convenient. Look, the finish, good. I do like it. It's durable. Spacing between here, the steps, solid. Can't complain. I got a bit of a 6-inch lift in the rear, so I still have to rip my pants to get up there, but hey, it's better than nothing, I suppose. All in all, not bad. I think it was really well done. I'm going to see how it holds up. Hey, it looks cool. That's cool. I'm going to see how well it holds up, though, later on. I can't really climb on it, because I'm going to whack my head again, and I don't want that. But, yeah. I'll probably do like another video just to show like the durability of this, to see how well it held up over time. If you guys want to see more videos about this Jeep that I'm doing, the Dirty Dancer, just, you know, like, comment, subscribe if you want. I'll be coming up with more videos, more reviews on a lot of products that I have on this, as well, talking about like a couple things I did, you know, kind of customize on this build. But yeah, just follow me up for another video. Cool.